They should sort of be aware of, since that you're playing here tonight and we're live on the radio here on WPAT. So anything that you want to share with us, Emil Stucchio, would be wonderful. This is a great moment in your life and in my life that I could be sitting here with you tonight and sharing some great stories or history that you've made over the years. And one of them happens to be, again, performing this evening. What would you like to tell our great audience from WPAT in New York City about you or the group or anything, the people that you have admired over the years?
Well, needless to say, when you talk about admiring people, some of the people that I had the pleasure to meet were always idols of mine. But I think I'd have to start with the guy that just was here, Al Contreras. In 1959, the Mystics, who grew up in the same neighborhood as me, as well as the Passions, grew up in the same neighborhood as me. We had a pact. We all hung out on the street corners together, and we'd always say, whoever got the first record contract, we'd look for the other two. Well, Al was with the Mystics, and they went on to record Hushabye, and they brought the Passions up, and the Passions did Just to Be With You. And us being the youngest, and I want to tell them that, the youngest of the three groups, we went in and recorded in 1960 a record called Cinderella, and then it wasn't until 1963 that we had the great pleasure to record Till Then. And then Till Then, now where do you get three groups from the same area, same neighborhood, who all have charted records, you know?
And these are not low, these are high charted records.
Yeah.
These are at the top of the survey.
Yeah, I mean,
top of the hit Billboard charts, and that was actually a great thing because it really meant something back in those days.
Sure,
More than now, I would say. Don't you agree?
Oh, absolutely. But also, I was fortunate enough, because of the records, to be playing on shows with people that I went out and bought their records, like the Flamingos, the Moonglows, the Teenagers, the Cleftones. I idolized these groups, you know. And then, of course, I was on the road with Bobby. I was on the road with Frank Allen, Paul Anka, so many different people that we were on these bus tours and go from city to city. And I mean, they're priceless memories. You know?
I know you have priceless memories of all the great cities that you've toured. But there's one particular city that brings back an interesting memory. Can you recall that comes to the top of the mind, the top of the front of the brain right now?
The first one that always comes to mind for me is I was from Brooklyn, New York, and I was never really out of Brooklyn.
Bensonhurst?
No, I was from Carroll Street.
Carroll Street?
But I used to go to Bensonhurst the same. Okay, so we had the record Cinderella at the time, and we're traveling to Camden, New Jersey. Now, I've never been out of New York. So we're traveling to Camden, New Jersey, and we're driving down the parkway, and we had to stop for gas. We were chauffeured. We were, when I say chauffeured, we had somebody to chaperone us because we were kids. I was 16. So, so that we wouldn't get in trouble, they took us to the job. So we stop at a gas station, and the guy says, can you tell me where the such and such roller rink is? He says, oh, you ain't going down there tonight. He says, what are you talking about? He goes, no, he says, you can't go down there tonight. He says, it's black night tonight. Now, I never knew anything about prejudice. I didn't know anything about black, white, because in Brooklyn it was whatever, like it's black, white, orange, it didn't matter. In this area, especially Camden, New Jersey, we happened to be booked on Jocko's show down in Camden at the roller rink.
Oh, Jocko.
Yeah.
The Jock. Oh, yeah.
Wpat and how do you do? That's Jocko Henderson. And we go there, we get into the parking lot, and this guy Fred, who was the driver, he said, now listen, just hang out over here. Meanwhile, we're the only white people in the entire parking lot. And he goes in to get Jocko, and he says, Jocko, the kids are white. And he goes, yeah, man, I knew that, so what's the problem? He says, okay, so he brings us in. We go into a locker room. Now, the locker room, with the headliner on the show was Lee Andrews from the Hearts. And then this guy, and I can't think of this guy's name, but he used to sing Valerie. And he would scream, Valerie! And they put a cape on him like James Brown. So we're in the locker room, and nobody's going, we're going to be the opening act. No, we're the second act. So Lee comes over, Lee Andrews. I had never met him. And he's an imposing figure. If you ever met Lee Andrews, he's a tall guy. beautiful guy. What a beautiful man he was. A great guy. Put his arm around me. He says, "Let me ask you something." He says, "Are you nervous?" I says, "Yeah." I says, "I'm a little nervous." I says, "I hope they like us." He put his arm around me. He says, "Listen, they're gonna love you. They're not here to see black and white. They're here to listen to your music. They know your song." So I said, "Okay." He says, "Just go out there and do what you do." And we went out there and we start, I met this chick at the Saturday dance. All of a sudden,
Hey, can you do that on our show one night?
Sure.
In the studio?
Sure.
Okay, it'll be Studio We. Talk to James Petrecca, James Petrecca Productions, and he'll take good care of you. I promise. So will we.
Anyway, we go out there and do the song, and the place was rocking. I mean, there was a balcony around. I still remember this, and I'm getting a funny feeling when I'm repeating the story. But there was a balcony all around, and I could see the kids, hopping and dancing, and it was a great thrill to see it. But the biggest impression I got was as I looked straight ahead, the locker room door was open, and there is the silhouette of Lee Andrews, I'm getting a funny feeling right now. And he was there with a big smile on his face.
You remember it was like yesterday, right?
Oh, yeah. I mean, look, I'm giving you details that they're so burned into my memory that I'll never forget it as long as I live. Years later, and he gave me a big hug when I got off stage, and he said, "I told you." And years later, we played the Ford Theater in, I think it was Philly, the Ford Theater, and I ran into him, and I didn't even know if he would remember. He said, "I know you." He goes, "How you doing?" I said, "I'm great." I says, "I want to tell you something, what you did for me. You boosted my confidence to sing in front of any audience, and I really want to thank you so much." He says, "No problem. No problem." That's Lee Andrews. And when he passed away, we lost a good one. He was really a good one. He didn't see black and
He's a
white.
legend.
Yeah, he didn't see black and white. He saw, you're one of us. You're a singer. So, and I appreciate that. That's
Emil Stucchio, the original classics. It's great that you're here tonight performing here in Rahway, New Jersey. To those people that want to just know a little bit more of the history of the original classics, what would you like to leave them with here tonight?
Well, I'll tell you, I've been so blessed that the original guys that I sang with, they were and are my brothers. I mean, I love those guys so much. We lost one last March, not this past March, but the March before, and he was. I went and auditioned for them. They were trying out. They needed a singer. They were looking for a lead singer, but I was the second tenor at the time, and they said, "Come on, try out for the group." So I brought a lead singer down, and I was going to do second tenor. Well, they didn't take him. They took me, and they said, "We'd like you to do lead." And I remember the song that I auditioned with was "One Summer Night" by the Dan Lears, and we did it. And next thing I know, they set up an audition with Jim Gribble, who was Al from the Mystics and the Passions manager, and we went down and we walked into the office, and Jim was smoking a cigarette, not like this. He was not like this. He was smoking it like this. Smoking it, and he's a big, imposing figure. And he had a lady next to him and a guy on the other side of him. And when we walked in, the lady leaned over and said something. I had no idea what she said to him. And he says, "Looks like we got some pretty boys here," because we were kids. We were 16. So he says, "Can you sing?" And I said, "Yes, sir. Yes, we can sing. Yes." So he says, "You got anything original?" So we had Cinderella, and we auditioned with that song. And he says, "We're going to go in tomorrow night and record you." And that was it.
It's great that you're still out here performing after all these great years. Do you have any other events or venues that you're playing over the summer or anything going on?
So many. I mean, tomorrow I'm going to Lancaster, Pennsylvania. I've been fortunate enough now, even though the workload has somewhat diminished for some people, we're holding our own. Thank God Almighty. I really mean it. I mean, if you can today say you're doing 50 or 60 dates, that is a lot of dates.
It's amazing.
I mean, and part of, and I got to say this.
But it keeps you young forever, right?
I had a birthday the other day, the 9th.
You're 55?
75.
No way.
Yeah, I'm 75.
Serious?
I swear.
You saw it?
Wow.
I was 75 on that day. Well, I mean, who could have records in 1960 and then, of course I'm 75.
That was the year I was born.
60?
6-0.
You could almost be my son. My daughter was born in 62.
See?
So, yeah. My family threw me a party over the weekend. And as honored that I am to be sharing the stage with so many great people like Bobby tonight or the Times, I was in a room with my entire family, and when you're in a room but you're alone, like I just was alone with my thoughts, and I just looked up and I truly mean this. I said, thank you, God. I'm grateful for everything that I got, but this is really what I'm grateful for. My kids, my grandchildren, my wife. I'm married to my wife 57 years.
God bless you.
Yeah, I lucked out.
Terrific.
I couldn't have picked a better girl because she had to deal with a lot, but she's a great girl.
Well, what makes those people that want to stay together in their marriage, what makes the marriage so special that you've had for so many wonderful years, and that you've kept it fresh? And in other words, what made this so special? You hear about the high divorce rate in America these days. It's staggering, the numbers, right? How did you keep it all together?
Every time...
I don't know where that came from.
No, it's okay. Every time you are faced with a dilemma in life, if there's a hand to help you with it, if there's a hand to help pull you out of your depressed state or whatever it is, and that's what she is to me, and hopefully I'm the same to her. So I think that it's having that kind of relationship.
Emil, it was great to see you tonight. Anybody, if they want to see you on Facebook or your website, can you tell us?
Emil Stucchio and the Classics. On Facebook or even the website.
Good to see you. Thank you. Come down and see us at WPAT one day.
Where is it?
27 William Street, the corner of